Okay, I think we're good. I think I'm getting my recording so I can share this on the replay. If you are seeing this on the replay today, go ahead and throw up your hashtag replay. Here at Build a Better Bakery, we try to be live with you every week just to give you some nice in-person info, but I know a lot of people can't make it live. You got other jobs, stuff going on. I get it. Okay. Good morning. A lot of people can't make it. Cool. All right. Looks like we are live in the group. I can take comments if you want to throw them in the comment box. If we've never met before, I'm Melissa Fryer. I'm the founder, the main mentor at Build a Better Bakery. And if you're interested in finding more joy and less overwhelm while you're starting and growing your baking business, then we should just hang out more. We are working with innovation inspiration for our theme for June. And if you're here with me today, you probably want to hear some information about rebranding. Today's session is all about when is rebranding a good idea, because it's not always the answer. And sometimes I see bakers get excited to rebrand because they think it's going to solve all their problems. But what happens is they spend a lot of time on a rebrand and then they realize it was actually something else that was causing issues that could have been adjusted without the rebrand. So I want to cover some of those with you today so you can kind of think about your situation and decide with more wisdom in your pocket, what's actually the best first step here. Now, I often see a lot of bakers wanting to rebrand over the summer. That's why we're talking about this today. I don't know if it's because they get more free time to think about what they're doing or what it is, but I see a lot of this in the summer. So again, that's why we're touching on it. You will likely be required to apply some deep innovation. Again, goes with our theme for June, for certain criteria in your business if you do decide to rebrand to make a bigger impact. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those options as well as we go through some examples. Go ahead and throw up your hashtag live if you are here live with me today. Okay, and then if you want more information about these lives, if you want to stay in the know about them, you can check the events here in the group. I usually post a day or two before what the subject's going to be. You can mark yourself as going and then join me always at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right now. That might change when we move in a few weeks, but for now we're going to stick with that. You can also send me a friend request to get an invite to these events. You can hang out on our email list. It's a free update email that you'll get every couple weeks, giving you links to most of these videos. Or you can even view some replays on YouTube. I put most of them up there as well. But coming live will get you the best information, the most current, and also if we do giveaways or special discounts, you'll get in on those as well if you are here live or if you view within 24 hours, essentially. Okay, so let's jump right in with the definition of a rebrand. I think some people think it's X, Y, Z. It has to be specifically this, but really the definition is very broad. And if you look it up in the dictionary, it says something to the effect of to change or update the image of an organization or a product, right? So it's a really broad topic, but when I hear people say, I want to rebrand, they usually mean everything. So again, another purpose of today's talk is to break some situations down and show you where a full overhaul might just be extra work that you don't really need, and you might be wasting your time. So again, you know me, I don't like wasting time. I don't want you to waste time. So that's why we're going to talk about it today. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Hope you're having a great day. Okay. So when you're considering making this change, it might be a mini rebrand, like a couple little things, or a full overhaul. And honestly, the amount of change that you're wanting to implement will be unique to you. So that's kind of where our 20-minute session, the complimentary sessions that I offer, each baker gets one. That might be the subject that you want to talk about with me to kind of see where you're at. Do note that any rebrand that you do, although it's fresh and fun and it's something new, it's going to require work, right? You're not going to snap your fingers and have everything done. So keeping in mind, that's going to be more hours that you need to spend. And there's also going to be a re-education process for your clients, which some people don't think about when they think about changing things up. If some people already know who you are, they know you by a certain name, by a certain look, you're going to have to re-educate them to where you are now. And that takes time and effort and a plan. So that's also something that goes into a rebrand. And it's just special attention and dedication you're going to have to put into it that, maybe if you've never done one before, you might not realize that's part of the process. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, a full rebrand is not necessarily always the answer. And because of that re-education process and even the opportunity for that new brand to flop, to not do very well, which happens, we want to think super deeply about this before we do it. If you're trying to fix a certain problem, you might realize that you've done this whole rebrand, you thought it was going to fix it, but it's actually something that wasn't even part of your brand that's causing the issues. So again, another reason for our talk today. Now, what would be some examples of when rebranding might not be a good idea? Let's start there, where you could focus on another aspect of your business rather than changing the brand as a whole. One example might be low social engagement. This is a pretty common issue that people tend to have. I think there are root causes to it that aren't necessarily brand issues. Likely it's due to maybe a lack of consistency, which is pretty common, or lacking in advertising intention. So maybe you're putting information out, but there's no larger goal or end goal or intention behind what you're doing. You're just kind of making noise and it's not going anywhere because there is no direction to it. Could be something like that. Or maybe you simply don't understand the platform you're on very well. So you're posting and you're doing things, but it's not working with the rules of the platform. And that can be with anything. That can be newspaper ads all the way to Facebook, all the way to Instagram. There's ways you have to do things to play their game, for the lack of a better term. So it could be something more like that. It doesn't really have to do with your brand at all. It's how you're pushing the information out. So if low social engagement is one reason why you're thinking about rebranding, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that that you start with a rebrand. I would suggest more consistent posting schedules, some head-turning copywriting. Look into copywriting. We teach it in the elites if you don't know much about it. That could change the game. You can mix in the purpose-driven engagement options, which if your content is pretty, there's not a lot of direction to it. If you're not asking for engagement, if it doesn't lead to the next step, that could be a good addition. Or maybe you're not even really speaking to your ideal client. The language you're using isn't attracting the type of person that you're trying to sell to. That could also be the issue. So I would kind of look at some of those aspects first before thinking I need to completely rebrand. All right. Number 2 is low sales. And of course, this might be a brand issue, but I wouldn't start there. This could be due to all these other factors that are going on within your business that aren't necessarily brand. That could be a lack of audience understanding. It's kind of the education portion of telling clients or telling customers or clients what you do and how you can help them. That's where good copywriting comes in. It could be pricing issues. And a lot of times when I say pricing issues, people immediately think overpriced. No, I actually mean underpriced. That there's some psychological things with that. We talk a lot about that in the elites and in the pricing course that we have. Low pricing is actually more hurtful than high pricing in most cases. So it could be something around that kind of issue, or even low quality photos. Something as simple as getting a good photograph of your products. People see the photos first before they buy normally. Can we level that up? We have training in the elites. You have an actual photography coach. There's training modules in there to help you learn how to use your phone and like a regular camera to take photos for your products. Could be something as simple as that. So there's other things, again, to look at for low sales versus a complete rebrand, trying to change everything. And just checking off those boxes first before you go through all the effort, because in the end, if you rebranded, that wasn't the problem. You kind of you didn't actually fix it. You know, you're kind of running around the problem rather than focusing. Okay, and another one might be lack of purpose. This is also, I see a lot of people who are suffering from burnout, or they just don't have any interest in continuing with their work. Sometimes they think I want to rebrand because I want to spice things up again. Again, could be the right answer, but if lack of purpose is what you're really feeling, maybe even just something as simple as rewriting your mission statement. That's not a complete rebrand. It's not going to take you weeks and weeks to do. It could just be one day where you sit down and work on your mission statement until it feels right. You know, just get some brainstorming out, maybe sit down for your 20-minute session with me. We can talk through your purpose and then see if that fixes it, right? Can you just refocus a little bit of your efforts in some part of your business And one good example that I've encountered recently is there was someone who wasn't feeling very excited about her business anymore. She was kind of just doing the same things over and over again, and she just wasn't super interested. So we talked a little bit about what is it that would make you feel good about making a sale? Even if you're making the same things, what would excite you about it? And she decided that she wanted to be giving back to the community. That was a way for her to be excited about pushing her products, not changing her business, but changing the purpose of her business. And that's all she had to do. So she just decided to start giving back to the community, work that into her business process, and that's where she's at now. And she's happier about what she's doing. Another one that I get asked about is changing up little bits and pieces. Again, do you need a whole rebrand? Probably not. Maybe you want to use a new color scheme. Does that really affect the vibe of your business, or can you just change some colors out? Maybe you want to add some stuff to the menu or take a few things off that aren't like substantial sections in the menu. I think you can approach these without a full rebrand, depending on the severity of the change. Let's give you an example, a very specific, strong example. Let's say your business name is the Cupcake Corner. That's, you're the Cupcake Corner. You sell cupcakes and maybe other things, but mostly it's cupcakes. And then you decide one day, I'm going to stop making cupcakes. In that case, you might need a rebrand because your entire business is built around cupcakes being the main offer. So if it's going to be something very large like that, that's going to change the whole process of what you're doing, then yes. But if it's just a little thing here and there, not a huge deal. And then lastly, another one I get asked about a lot is changing your name. Very common, totally okay to do. Again, I'm not sure that really consists of a full rebrand. You're not necessarily changing everything you're doing, you're just changing the name. That could be something that I'm going to lay out a process for you that will work. You don't need to do much besides basically tell people in advance and help them understand. It's that re-education part. So there's going to be some lead time to that. And especially if you're already known in the area, that this could be a little rough just because people already know who you are by a certain name. So you're going to need to help them through that. And the way you can do that is kind of letting people know through posting or signs that you're going to be changing your name soon, coming soon, and then the name change, something like that. And then when you decide to change it, instead of just changing it from name 1 to name 2, change it to something like name 2, formerly known as name 1. And leave it that way on your socials and maybe even signs for up to 2 weeks or longer. So people can see it and start putting 2 and 2 together. Oh, okay, used to be called this, now it's called this. It's the same thing. We just need to educate. And then lastly, you're going to finally change your name after a certain period of formerly known as time. You might see some drop off because of the name change. That's pretty common. So the education of the audience to continue to tell them what the old name was, the longer that goes is usually better. But I know some people don't want to wait super long. It's kind of clunky to have things say formerly known as blank, blank, blank. So I get it, but at least 2 weeks, maybe even up to a month or so to give people an opportunity to see it. Hey, Allie, good to see you. Alrighty. Now, so those are some options where I think you could do other things than rebrand. I really don't think that you need to put in the work for that and the money for that if you have some of the options that I listed above. Now, when would I suggest a possible full rebrand? There's actually less options here because they're very large feelings. They're not necessarily little tiny things that you're nitpicking in the business. Number 1 is audience and owner confusion. And this is a big one for 2 certain categories that I will mention in a moment. So if you ask people about your business and they don't know who you are or what you're doing, that's a problem. If you're unable to describe what you clearly do in a short 1 to 2 sentence mission statement, that's a problem. Or if people don't see the value in what you're offering, that could be a problem. All to say that it's possible you haven't fully built out the brand enough to convey the value that you're bringing to the table. And branding has a couple different sections to it. It's not just your name and your colors, right? There's other things that are happening in the background, how you show up, when you show up, what you offer, where you're at, all of that. So in this case, if people are confused about what you're doing, and if you're personally confused about who you serve, how you're doing it, what you're offering, I highly suggest looking at brand building from the bottom up. Now, you might not have to, let's say you have a lot of these pieces already, you might not have to actually create a lot of the brand. You can just plug things in. But I think starting at the bottom and just checking off the blocks that you have the information in place through the entire rebranding process could help. So maybe you won't completely rebrand, but going through that process, if there's audience confusion or owner confusion, then that's, I think, what I would suggest doing. So again, might not have to actually do everything, but going through the steps is what I would suggest. And then you can evaluate what you already have to check up against the core brand that you're building, right? It's kind of like filling in the blanks. Okay. Number 2 is if the vibe isn't vibing. Okay, so it just feels wrong, something's wrong. This is a really common one. I've had this happen to me a couple times and made some large changes because of it. But just the vibe isn't vibing. So if if you just know this business looks and feels and sounds a certain way and it's just not right, that's what I mean. Then yes, I'd suggest a full brand overhaul because something's wrong. And if it's not the things I listed at the beginning, if there's just something at the base of it that doesn't feel right, then yes, again, going through the steps from the ground up, you might be able to plug in some things that you already have, but you might not want to if it doesn't feel right. So from the name to the color theme, to the mission statement, to the menu, to the policies, to the copywriting, to the packaging, these are all aspects of building on your brand. And I often see this in 2 situations where the vibe isn't vibing. One is when you start a business too quickly, either due to pressures or maybe you just wanted to get out there and start selling, but you didn't actually build the brand first or like kind of think about the intricacies of what people were going to see when they looked at your business. You kind of just pieced them together as you went. That happens to a lot of people. That's no shame in that. That's just how it kind of goes sometimes, especially for entrepreneurs, because we're kind of just doing it on our own and just getting in there. That type of build process can cause this. Just not thinking through every choice, how they link together really is what it is. Or when you take over another business or someone else's business and it just doesn't feel right to you because it's not your business. So expecting that someone else's business is going to fit you like a glove is likely not going to happen. That's where the rebrand comes in, because we need to make it work for you so that you don't get burnt out and you love what you're doing. That's another purpose for rebranding, is just to make you feel good about your business and also please the clients that you're trying to serve. Okay. And then the last one here is an audience change up. This one's really important because if you know you want to change your audience and the current group that you're focusing on, that you're targeting with your brand is not the same, and there's really not a lot of overlapping, rebranding has to happen, or there's going to be a lot of problems with them understanding that you're going to serve their community now rather than the original community that you had branded for. So as an example, let's a very simple cake example. Someone makes birthday cakes and they want to move into wedding cakes. They want to literally cut out all of the small occasions and they want to go to the wedding industry. Perfectly reasonable if you want to switch over to industry, right? Okay. So let's say your business name is the Birthday Cake Castle. That's like, Birthday Cake Castle. I don't know why you would name it, but let's say that's what it is. And you want to start serving the wedding industry. But how many brides are going to want to buy a cake from the Birthday Cake Castle, right? Like it doesn't match the group. Even if you're selling the same cake, it's got to be situated into a business brand and a business visual that's going to serve that new industry. So you're better off rebranding fully in this instance. And we're doing this to help the audience pay attention to you, trust you, and use your services right away, rather than you having to completely try to re-educate this new group by keeping the old name that doesn't really fit and trying to convince them that you are serving them when the old name doesn't make any sense, right? To what they're trying to purchase. So this would include everything from your name, even into your photo album. You might need to make some example pieces that fit that new industry so people understand what your quality of your work is going to look like for that type of product. Maybe you need to work on your pricing and your bundling and your options, like we cover in the Elite program. We talk about value pricing. We talk about the value ladder. We talk about having people enter in certain parts of the value ladder, moving them up and down the ladder, sales 101, all of that good stuff. Thinking about that as part of the rebrand is going to be important because your audience is changing, people's priorities are changing, and the way people shop changes based on the audience type. The way a bride shops for something is different than the way a dad trying to get a birthday cake shops. They're just completely different sets, and there's different things going on up here. They have different priorities. So thinking that all the way through during the rebrand is a great exercise for you, but also a way for you to open up your options for that new audience. Okay. Yeah. So Allie says, I was always thinking about branding as a whole vibe of the business. Right. Whole vibe. And that's where number 2 came in. The vibe's not vibing. That would be a rebrand situation. It's got a vibe. So if you're considering a rebrand, just to leave you with some of this here, you may or may not have heard your situation described above. Okay. Like there's lots of different things that could be happening to you to make you feel like you should do this. So definitely check into setting up your free 20-minute session with me if you haven't used it yet. I give mentorship to any baker who wants to snag it. Everyone gets 20 minutes. I have paid options as well if you want more than that, but everyone at least gets that 20 just to sit down and talk through what you have going on. So we can chat about it and see where you land, right? I can ask you some questions and we can see, hey, what kind of makes sense and what doesn't make sense. You can comment session here. If you want me to send you the link, you can DM me for the link. It's also on my website. Just click around, look at coaching options. It's a Calendly scheduling page, so you can pick the day and time that works for you. Although a full rebrand may or may not be in your future, you may never rebrand. You may stick with what you have forever. You may want to rebrand starting next week, right? In any case, know that we're here for you every step of the way. There's Miss Autumn, if you've not met her before. She's your very own marketing and sales coach inside the Elites. We have different coaches in there with different specialties. And she's actually covered all of the rebranding topics in depth that I've mentioned above. Sometimes myself or Claire also touch on some of these. And we want to invite you in to experience our tight-knit inclusive program if this is something that you want to do with us. Have your coaches in your corner, working through this step by step. We want to make sure you feel confident and you have a plan in place, which is very important. So you know what to do day by day to get to your end goal. Planning is one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs, especially if you're new at it or you're just very overwhelmed being too close to everything that's happening. Getting that outside perspective and some information to back up, hey, maybe you should do this first week, this second week, this third week, can help keep you in line to reach your goals. And to help with that, for each elite that's joining us, I'm going to be sitting down with you and constructing your very own 90-day plan of action. So it's 90 days stretched out so you can look at your timeline and fill in some actions that we're going to go over that's based on your unique goals and needs to reach what you want to reach in 90 days or less, right? So we're going to set all that up for you, essentially within our first session of we're going to sit down and just figure it out together. I'll make that for you. And you'll also have the full access to our full vault library. Lots of information and training videos in there for you to access it 24/7. And it's within the membership, which is great. So it's nothing extra. You get access to all of that. And that makes sure things are all in one place for you. So you don't have to search the internet for information. And you can move step by step as you're up-leveling your business. We also have weekly coaching sessions. So if you have a question, come see me in Zoom, just like this, once a week. You can also pop into our private Facebook group with your questions there, or you can even email the coaches to get the support you need throughout your time in the membership. So we make ourselves very available for you so that you don't feel alone, you feel supported, you can leave your stress behind and find your joy along the way with us. That's why we're there in the Elite Mentorship Program. So if you need any of that kind of stuff, let me know. All right, to recap, before you consider a rebrand, look deeply at what you're experiencing. Think about, if I rebrand, I'm basically getting rid of most of what I already have. Do I really need to do that? If it's an issue that can be addressed without upending everything you already have, then start there. That's my advice. If the whole vibe is off, something's wrong, it's not working for you, your audience doesn't understand what you're doing, you're confused, things don't match how you want them to be, changing gears and maybe starting from the ground up to work on that rebrand is probably a good idea. Get that 20-minute session with me if you want to talk about it first, to kind of see where everything's at. Okay, that's it for me today. All right, so cheers to branding innovation. I know it can be a little overwhelming, but that's why we're here. So you can post in the group if you want some group input. You can set up your session with me, DM me, type session, I'll get you the link. And we can get started talking about your rebrand. Maybe not rebrand. All right, I'm off to chat with some sweet bakers who set up their sessions already. I'm going to talk with them today and hopefully give them sprinkle on some inspiration so they can get moving forward with their goals too. All right, now let me know in the comments, do you think you'll be rebranding anytime soon? Let us know what your ideas are and we can chat in the comments too. Okay, bye.